You've definitely heard the name Madeleine McCann. It's a name that, for well over a decade now, has become synonymous with one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries of our time. So today, we're going to break down what happened, the massive challenges that plagued the investigation, and exactly why this case continues to grip the entire world.
Look, this isn't just some headline. This is a story that taps into a fear every single one of us can understand. A child, tucked in, safe in bed one moment, and then just gone the next. That right there, that emotional core, is why years and years later, one family's search for answers still resonates so deeply with millions of people.
To really get a handle on the decades of twists and turns, we have to go right back to the beginning. We need to look at the specific, minute-by-minute details of that fateful night. Okay, so these are the core, undisputed facts. 3-year-old Madeleine McCann vanished from her family's holiday apartment in Portugal. The date was May 3rd, 2007, and all these years later, the case is still unsolved. Everything that follows is this incredibly complex web of theories and dead ends, but it all starts right here. So, how does a quiet family holiday just shatter into an international mystery? Well, it all came down to a window of just a few hours. Let's just walk through this timeline really carefully. At 8:30 p.m., the McCanns are eating dinner with friends nearby. They've got a system going where they take turns checking on the kids. Around 9:05, Madeleine's dad, Jerry, does a check. Everything's fine, all the kids are sleeping. Then, about 9:30, a friend does another check as part of their routine. But then, we hit the critical window. The next check isn't until 10 p.m. That's when Madeleine's mom, Kate, goes back. And in that short span of time, everything had changed. And that was the moment of discovery. Madeleine wasn't there. But it was more than that. The room itself seemed to tell a story. The window was open, the bedroom door was ajar. These little details immediately suggested this wasn't just a child wandering off. No, this pointed towards something far more sinister. The holiday was over, the nightmare had just begun. That discovery triggered an immediate and absolutely massive response. It grew so fast from a local police matter into a full-blown global search operation. But right from the very start, the investigation was just a perfect storm of challenges. The police were juggling conflicting witness reports and totally different theories. The forensic evidence was incredibly difficult to analyze. And crucially, this was an international case. You've got a British family in Portugal, which created this maze of legal and logistical hurdles. And all that led to this really unique and complicated situation. You had two separate parallel investigations. The initial Portuguese effort actually closed in 2008, only to be reopened years later. Meanwhile, British police launched their own huge review, called Operation Grange, which is actually still active today. This division, as you can imagine, created major challenges in just coordinating evidence and strategy across borders. And then there was the media. The case just became this global phenomenon, which was a total double-edged sword. On one hand, yeah, the publicity generated thousands of tips. But on the other hand, it created this immense pressure, it fueled all kinds of speculation, and at times, it really seemed to steer the public narrative way more than the actual evidence did. The search for Madeleine had effects that rippled out far beyond this one case. It forced these huge, broader conversations about child safety, about international policing, and about the very role of the media in a crisis. First off, it fundamentally changed how so many parents thought about safety. The idea that a child could just vanish from a locked room in a family resort, a place you are supposed to feel secure, that was a chilling wake-up call about how vulnerable kids can be, really anywhere. Second, it really exposed the cracks in international police cooperation. When you have different laws, different languages, different procedures all coming into play, investigating a case across borders becomes incredibly difficult. This case basically became the textbook example of those challenges. And finally, it put the media's role under a microscope. The case became a defining example of that really delicate balance between raising awareness, which is valuable, and creating a media circus that can actually hinder an investigation. And that's a debate that is more relevant today than ever. So after all these years, after multiple investigations and just unending media attention, where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us with the same haunting, unanswered question we started with. While official investigations have started and stopped and restarted, for Madeleine's family, the search has never paused for a single day. It's a constant pursuit.
driven by the simple, powerful hope that one day they will finally have an answer.
Ultimately, Madeleine's story is so much more than just a case file. It's become this enduring portrait of loss, of relentless hope, and of a family's fight for truth against an agonizing silence. And that's why it continues to command our attention and our empathy. And so, we're left with the same exact question that has echoed for nearly 2 decades, just hanging over everything. What happened to Madeleine McCann?